Hey, everybody. Okay. Last week we couldn't get this to work, and this week it is working. So that's nice. So today I want to talk about relationships and intimacy. Um, it's a really interesting topic for me to talk about today since I've just had kind of an example of one of the trickiest parts of relationships and intimacy. And this is the part that causes most relationships to get derailed. Um, so so the human animal, right, is all about security, safety, status quo. And when you bring another human being into the mix, of course, that bringing another human being in a relationship is um, built on a couple of things. It's built on obviously our intense desire to connect that's built into our species. The desire to procreate, right? To continue the species, all of that, right? So there's an inborn desire to connect with others for most people. And then there's also the um, huge fantasy piece of it, which is this other person is going to complete me. So we bring other people into our life. We want a relationship. For a lot of people, I'm not speaking for everybody, obviously. And as much as we want intimacy, as much as we want closeness, we also fear it, right? Because our intimacy, relationship strategies were built in our early childhood and developed by our parents. And for most of us, that is not a good deal. How our parents were close with us and how they were with each other, for a lot of us, it was not great. For some of us, it was, and that's fine too. But that doesn't guarantee that relationships are going to be smooth for you. Because a lot of it has to do with how your parent related to you, etc. So this intimacy thing, this closeness is tricky, as you may have discovered. It's not this straight line thing. So what makes that work? What allows you to connect with somebody else? So you have this other spirit, this other perfect being, and whether you guys are perfect together, that's a whole different story. But you have these two perfect beings trying to connect with all this junk, misperception, lies on top in the way of the ability to really connect. And so each of us inherently at our soul level feels safe because we are safe. But on the level of our egos, our personalities, our subconscious, we don't feel safe. And so this is what you're going to run up against every time you try to get close with another person. So and this goes in stages, which is really fascinating. So here are two people, they don't know each other at all, right? They meet, there's an attraction, there's something in common, and this can be a romantic relationship or a non-romantic relationship, doesn't matter. And they get close. And there's generally a sort of honeymoon period. There's a period where it's like, oh, hey, this is great. I really like this person. And then inevitably something happens. And your confidence in this other person is shaken. And so you either, at this point, at this juncture, you either separate from this person or you sort of do the work of going to the next level, or worst case scenario, you have a resentment and you bury it, right? And then this takes you to the next level of intimacy. And so this is kind of how it goes. So you can kind of think about this as in terms of like dating. It's like, okay, you don't know each other. You have a coffee date. Okay, the coffee date goes well. You like that. And then you have a second date. On the second date, somebody says something and something gets triggered or someone gets upset and there's now an issue. So a lot of relationships will stop there. If you continue, if you work through this, you'll get to the next level of intimacy. So then you might, whatever, start kissing, get sexual, whatever. Right? It's not, we're not trying to get explicit here, right? We're just trying to explore these dynamics. And here's the fascinating thing is there are levels of intimacy, and every level of intimacy that you reach is kind of a plateau. And you say, okay, I'm safe on this level. But then when you want to get closer, and the deeper you go into a relationship, the tougher these hits get. There's this explosion kind of thing. There's this sort of fracture point. And you've all experienced this, I'm sure, in your relationships. And the funny thing is, this person that you really like and this person that you really sort of trust, all of a sudden, now you don't trust them. They say something or do something, you're like, can I trust this person? And this is where most relationships go off the rails. And it's really a sad thing because the thing is it doesn't matter who you're with, you're going to have these bumps in the road. You're going to have these. Like, even still, my wife and I, we've been together now, I can't even count that high anymore. We've been together 23 years. We've been married for 17, something like that. And 2 or 3 years ago, we had one of these bumps in the road. And of course, lovely. I think that's you, Susie. Thanks for chiming in. Yes, it absolutely relates to work as well. It relates to anything where you're sort of getting closer to people, trusting them more, interacting more, 100%. So you sort of have to plan and prepare for these, and most people don't. They see this, they go, oh my gosh, what's this curveball? Uh-oh, that must mean this is the wrong relationship. And one of the things that helped me the most when it comes to relationships, I heard this one pathwork lecture. I studied pathwork. I did 20 years of this small group where we studied this channel series of lectures, and they were all really great. And one of them said, what most people do is they go from relationship to relationship. And in each relationship, they only go so deep. And they go, oh, this is the wrong person. And they move to another one. And they go, oh, this is the wrong person. And they move to another one. And so that lack of depth they get mirrors them in their life. It's like they don't really get to the depth inside themselves, right? Because this other person and this other relationship, these other relationships model for us how close we get with ourselves, the intimacy we have with our depth of spirit, which, as I've said in other things, is like, it's really the point of life for you to really understand who you are, your own perfect nature. That's really kind of the point of life, because that's where your happiness lies. That's where your fulfillment lies, is realizing and understanding just how incredible you are. This whole time in our lives, we've spent so much time trying to find it out in the world and trying to be great in the world. And of course, the only place it can really be found is inside yourself. And so these relationships kind of mirror that. So like I was saying, my wife and I, it's been several years now, to probably 3 or 4 years ago, we had a bump in the road. We had a couple that was close to us. We thought they were great. And then there was an affair. And that kind of shook us, because we went, oh my gosh, it's like their relationship was that fragile. It made us feel kind of fragile. And then she said some things and I got triggered. And up until that point, I had been somebody who was more needy, and she had been more love avoidant. And as a result of going through this kind of bottom and going through this cycle that I talk a lot about, if you want things to change, you want things to go to the next level, you sort of have to die to the ego at that level. And so that neediness that I had, that clingy, that holding on, trying to hold on to somebody, that I developed obviously in childhood, because I didn't, get enough of my dad's love. I was always chasing it. I was in that mode of kind of always chasing and always wanting and not feeling like it was enough. And this crisis that we went through healed that. And so then that allowed me to not be as needy and not reach for her. And of course, her biggest trigger was being reached, because the way she grew up was she kind of had to take care of her mother. And so she felt this constant demand and need from her sister and from her mother. And so I was stepping on that, and that prevented closeness and intimacy with us. And so since then, our relationship has just been gone to the next level and been even better. And this is what I talk about. It's like that could have been a point where we got into real problems and we separated, but we didn't. And because we understood and we worked through, right? And so this is the most important thing to know about relationships, I think, is that they're going every certain period of time, every couple of years, depending on the length of the relationship. But you can kind of count on every, 2 to 4 years, somewhere in there, there's going to be a bump in the road, a real sort of crisis point. And how you navigate that is going to really determine your long-term success in your relationships. And I always say you can't judge a relationship by how it's going when it's going well. You judge a relationship by how it's going when it's going poorly. In other words, how well do you work through problems and crises? That's the real litmus test for your relationship and how well it's working. You have to, because there's going to be sort of constant conflict in a way. My wife and I, we don't have a ton, but I mean, there are these different tensions. Like my wife is a Virgo, right? And I'm not. I'm an Aquarius, and so I'm a little bit of a mad genius in the laboratory kind of thing. And I'm working on this and I'm working on that. And she's like, tidiness is her thing. So she showed me this little video of like what it's like to live with a Virgo. So this guy's he gets something out of the fridge and he sets it down, and he turns his back. And while he turns his back, his wife comes along and picks it up, cleans it up, puts it in the dishwasher. And he turns over here to get some powder or something, and he goes back and it's like, where's the cup? And then he's like confused. And while he's turned around, she comes and cleans up the cup, and he turns around. And it's like the project that he was working on is gone. And that's like, and so that's sort of an ongoing sort of tension in our relationship, is just these completely different styles. Right. And it's like, we know this about each other, and every once in a while for both of us, it's irksome. Right. But this is not a major, this is like a difference in style. This is not a major issue. So, but the reason I bring that up is because in every relationship, sorry, somebody's texting me. I'm getting distracted. In every relationship, there are going to be bumps in the road. Why is that? There's going to be problems. There's going to be issues. And the reason that is because relationships are the way that we grow. This is how we grow. This is how we get stronger. And we get stronger by these things being brought up. So relationships are essentially designed to trigger us. Okay. So think about it from that standpoint, right? Relationships are going to press our buttons, and that's good and fine. And that's how it's supposed to be and how it's meant to be. And, the issue that you have to resolve yourself with is you're going to have an issue. The main thing you want to do is understand that the other person in this relationship is not the cause of those feelings. I'd say that is the biggest problem in relationships. I'm having these terrible feelings in this relationship. I shouldn't be in this relationship anymore. The relationship is not causing the feelings. The relationship is triggering feelings that are already there and buried. And you want to be grateful that the relationship is bringing these up. And then you want to do your work on them. That's how you sort of sustain a long-term relationship. That's how you grow. That's how you get better, as you realize the things that come along aren't the reasons to bail out of this. They are the reasons to sort of stay and work with it and feel those energies. Okay, good. So, so now we know relationships are designed to trigger us. So we have to learn how to work through those feelings. And what are those feelings? Those feelings are generally those feelings are generally ones of abandonment, of fear of not being loved, etc. These are the things that get triggered. And what most people don't realize is their conflicts about money or tidiness around the house and all that really come down to those things. You're not fighting about, the socks being left on the floor. You're fighting about, you don't value me, you don't see me, you don't hear me. And those are things we picked up in early childhood, right? So, so how do you work with those? I guess one of the things I can say, since we're talking about relationships and intimacy, one of the biggest problems, and this is not as big as the other problems that I just talked about, but it's still a pretty solid issue. That is, sometimes, so not talking about the problems and just hoping they'll go away, obviously that's a relationship breakdown. So you don't want to go to that extreme where you're not communicating. But the other thing you don't want to do is when both people are still triggered, you don't want to try to sort out and solve the problem right there. Like the sort of we don't go to bed angry kind of thing, um, which is not necessarily a bad idea, right? Can create a pressure and a tension of we have to solve this now. The problem is when you're in a conflict and people aren't being heard well, um, it's a really tough time to try to sort it all out because and that's when people are arguing, that's what people, both persons don't feel heard, and they're trying to be heard, and they're trying to get heard by a person who is not in a place to listen because that person's trying to be heard. So you see the problem, it's like the communication is broken down. So the best thing that I recommend is to separate, go off, do work on your own, find out what got you so triggered, and then come back when you have some clarity around that. When you go, oh, this triggered the thing of nobody cares what I want. Okay, so if nobody cares what I want is up, then I have to sit with that, and I have to sort that out. I have to sit and I go, oh, okay. It's not that my husband or wife doesn't care what I want. It's just when they left the socks on the floor, it feels like nobody cares that I want a clean house. Nobody cares. So, and then when you go, oh, I see where this came from, I see how this is a childhood wound, it starts to take the pressure off the other person, which is what you want, because now you're not trying to convince them how terrible and rotten they are. You're just coming to them and saying, oh, these are my feelings, this is what happened for me, this is why I got so triggered. And hopefully that other person went off and did their work and came back, and now you can have a different kind of conversation. Now you can sort of patch that up. And what's interesting for me, a lot of times, my wife and I, we don't have to have that secondary conversation. We have a conflict, we go to our separate corners, we each work on ourselves, we come back, we've resolved it, and it's like nothing happened. And so I don't know how realistic, or if I recommend that in the beginning. I definitely hope for you and wish for you that you get to that sort of point where that's the deal. And I don't want to present this like everything's perfect, over here in this land, because again, things come up, and when things come up, they come up all the time, right? So there's the small rifts, and then there's the major rifts. The major rifts is really what I'm talking about here in learning. It's like, okay, and understand whenever you want to go to the next level of intimacy with somebody, there's going to come a fracture point, and there's going to come a thing where it's like, oh shit, I thought I could trust this person. I thought I could spend my life with this person. I don't think I can really trust them at all. You got to look for those moments, because those are going to come, and they're going to really knock you off center, and you're going to really, it's going to seem like, oh God, no, what they did was beyond the pale, can't, not workable, no can do. And it may be true. It may be true. So you have to really look, but you have to, I would say you really have to work with those scared, safe feelings, because this part of you here doesn't want to go to the next level of intimacy and is going to fight and try to derail it because it's scared, because in the past, being close with the parents wasn't good, right? It triggers all sorts of things. And so this is really the key to relationships, is to understand that these things, relationship is always going to dig up these deep things. Okay. So let's do a little meditation, shall we? Um, about relationships and conflict and safety. Okay. So get quiet. And again, if you're driving when you're listening to this, don't close your eyes while you're driving. Just listen and try to get centered. So close your eyes, breathe into your center, come down into your heart space, come down into your solar plexus, come down into your stomach, and breathe. Breathe all the way down into your stomach, right? And that area around your belly button, just a little bit low, is the center of your energy in your body. So come to that center and just breathe and experience it like you're going down to the depths of the ocean, right? Up on the surface, there may be waves and storms, etc. But the further you go down, we're not factoring in water pressure or anything like that, right? We're just going deeper, deeper down into the ocean. And the deeper we go, the more quiet it gets. And we're just grounding ourselves. Now, picture yourself coming all the way down to the surface of the ocean, and you just come to rest there. And you can breathe fine. And just stand there and maybe even sit. And if you're water phobic, you can change the scenario. But just sit there and experience that stillness and that quiet and that depth. Okay, good. Now let's come up to your heart. And I want you to picture you holding your heart with both hands, cradling your heart. And now picture yourself giving your heart a hug. Good. Now I want you to picture there's a little door in your heart. So just reach down, open that little door, and then go into your heart. And the first thing I want you to look for is a part that is scared to love, to trust, to open, doesn't trust, it doesn't feel safe. Can you feel that part? Can you find that part? Now I want you to hold that part that's afraid in your hands. And while you're holding that part in your hands, I want you to picture the vast space underneath it. And that space is filled with love and trust to an infinite degree. And I want you to picture all that love and trust like a bunch of really wispy, light, fluffy clouds. And I now want you to take that scared part that's so afraid, that's holding on so tight, letting go. And I want you to lay that part on that sort of cloud bank of love. And that cloud bank of love is holding up that afraid part completely, holding it up to where that part can just kind of sit back and relax on the most comfortable mattress it's ever felt. And let it just sink in to the degree that feels wonderful and comfortable. And because these clouds are made of love, let that part that's so afraid feel that love holding it up and feel that love soak in. And now I want you to sit next to that part on this cloud bank, and I want you to kind of picture holding its hand. And if you want to put it in your lap, you can do that. And now we're just going to talk to this part just for a couple of seconds, and we're just going to say to it, I see how tight and constricted you are and how much you're holding on out of fear. And I'm so sorry. And I know you're holding on out of fear because it helps you feel safe, right? So I'd like to try a little experiment with you then. What I want you to do is all that tightness and that you're holding on, that's at 100%. I want you just to sort of let go of 2 or 3% of it, right? Of that tightness and that holding on, and let's see how you feel. Okay, so if you're willing to do that, let's try that right now. Just let go of 2% of that holding on. And breathe. Now, does that feel better or worse? For most people, unless you have a part that's just, this is brand new, that letting go just that little bit feels a little bit better. So the ironic thing is the holding on for safety actually makes us feel unsafe. And the letting go and opening to the universe actually makes us feel safe. Okay, so now, since that experiment was good and successful, we're just going to try one more. We're going to let go of that another 8%. Okay, let's just do 7. Let's do 7%. I'm going to let go of 7% and just let go a little, just piece by piece. And at the end, we'll see. So I'm going to count down from 7 and just let go. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And breathe in. Chances are you feel better letting go. So if you have time and space in your life, I'd love for you just to keep letting go in increments that you feel comfortable with. 10%, 15%, 20%, to get all the way down to 0 and see how much better you feel. Right? So what we saw a part here that's scared, that doesn't trust. And this is the part that gets triggered when we start to get into relationships. Okay, good. Very good job, everybody. Okay, and while we were having a little meditation, somebody texted something, and I really want to address it because I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions that ruins most relationships. And that is whether the other person is willing to do the work or not at all. I would say this is the thing that really, really damages relationships the most. Is we think, okay, well, I'm doing the work, the other person's got to do the work equally. And that's bizarrely, that's not the case. Oh, good. I'm glad the meditation was good. So now it seems like the case where it's like, well, the other person's got to be committed too. No. The work is the work, the situation and the relationship thing is caused by your trauma reaction. And the nature of the relationship and the way the other person is showing up or not showing up is also a function of your inner state. And so the other person, I've said this many times, whenever I talk about relationships, I always use this as my most important rule. If you want to be happy in relationships, use this rule. The other person doesn't exist. The other person is a cardboard cutout. They are just a mirror for me. So I'll give you an example of this. When I was first dating my wife, I was like, she's kind of angry. I don't really want to date an angry person, do I? No. And so that would cause me to sort of push her away, right? But then I went, wait a minute. If I'm in a relationship with her and I'm attracting that energy, then probably who's really angry? Oh, me. Oh, yeah. So then I get to work on my anger, and then the other person's anger is not an issue. Aha. So if I use the other person as a mirror for me, well, then I'm getting somewhere, right? So that's the most important thing to see is don't expect or need the other person to do the work. The work is for you to do. And if the other person's not doing the work and you have strong feelings about the other person not doing the work, then that's the work that you need to work on. You need to work on, I'm doing all this work. And I can pretty much guarantee you, because I've seen this with clients, is well, I'm doing my part and they are not, still comes from childhood. As a child, I felt like I was doing everything I could and my parents weren't doing anything. And so if you sort of reject this person because, oh, they're not willing to do the work. Then you split up with them and you go find somebody else. And guess what? They're not going to do the work, right? Because there's that block. And we're not willing to do the work on that part of us that is so angry that they're not doing the work, right? So it really is this thing of where it really is always about you. That's the thing to really internalize with this if you really want to change, is just say, okay, this other person doesn't exist. They're just a mirror for me. Now, I can't say that that's true, but I always tell people, I can't say that's the reality of life, is these other people don't exist. They're just part of our dream. That may not be the case, but I can tell you, if you live that way, your life is going to be 10 to 100 times better. Your relationships are going to go better because you are clearing out all of your blocks to intimacy. And then if the relationship's not right, it will separate. When the thing that what people don't realize that is when your energy really changes, the other person either has to change or go away. Those are the only options. And so if you're sort of in this thing, and it continues to show up, it's because your energy is still in alignment with that. And this goes, to everything. Like my wife really wanted to move out of LA really badly. Sorry, part of your comment got cut off. Let's see. Right. Yeah. I mean, I always say what we're always really dealing with, the only real problems you have are your feelings. The situations aren't the problem. The feelings that we have are. And we can always work with those feelings and bring our work to those feelings. That is the thing to do. Okay. So we're going to wrap up for today. Are there any questions? Any questions from the chat that somebody wants me to touch on before we wrap up for today? Okay, so there's actually a lot in here, a lot of really important points, which I'll try to recap, but I'm not gonna get them all. Relationships are going to bring up a lot of buried feelings, and you're not going to have a relationship that's not going to bring those. That is not a sign that your relationship is not working. Um, and I would suggest that the way you reframe relationships is they are a vehicle for growth, as opposed to they are fulfilling my needs for intimacy, etc. All of those needs will get met, especially as you show up and use it as a vehicle for your growth. Whenever you go to the next, whenever you go to the next story, whenever you go to the next level of intimacy, there's going to be a bit of an explosion. Oh, so the story about moving. So my wife really wanted to move out of Los Angeles. And I said, we're probably going to move when our vibration no longer matches. And that's what happened. We started changing enough. And then an opportunity showed up in Palm Springs and we moved and the vibration here was different. It was like the blood pressure went down like that, right? Because we were slowly changing our vibration. And so then we moved to a place where there was really a better quality of life and a much more relaxed attitude, which fit with where we were moving. So when you really change inside, your environment starts to change. And so I really try to recommend that people work inside as well as outside. I'm a believer in taking those actions outside to help move the energy, but really it's about changing that energy inside. Okay, and so relationships and all of life really follows along these sort of laws and these guidelines, right? Of and the laws like the sacred and stuff. It's like you attract what is inside you, and so if there's something there, it's because it's being pulled towards you by what is inside of you. And so to continue to recap on the relationship thing. Every time you go to the next level of intimacy, there's going to be huge bumps in the road. And then the last thing is you don't need somebody else to do the work for you to do the work. And don't always try to sit down and work it out right away. Go off, work on it yourself for a while, have a shift, and then come back and then try to work it out after you've both had shifts. Or even if it's just by yourself, go off. Don't try to sort of convince the person of your viewpoint. You go and have a state change yourself. That's what you're looking for. It's like, oh, okay, I was vibrating here, but I was vibrating from the energy of you're not seeing me, you're not understanding me. I've got to step out of that. I've got to see where that you're not seeing me, that you're not understanding me is coming from. Oh, yes. Okay, it's coming from this place of I wasn't seen as a child. Now I go, oh, that's just a replay of that. Now I can come back to this relationship without putting that on the other person. Because this is the mistake that people make in relationships. These resentments that we get, we think this person's doing this person's doing that, and they build and they build and they build until the relationship crumbles. And that's just what happens. And so these are all the tools and techniques to make sure that doesn't happen. You need to stay current in your relationship. And if there's a resentment, you need to work on that. Because remember, a resentment is always an avoidance of something that you don't want to feel. It looks like the other person did this thing. And that's the illusion the ego wants you to believe. But I can guarantee you that line of thinking is only going to lead you to ruined relationships. This person did that, and that was unconscionable. That is not going to get you anywhere. So if I look and I stop and I go, well, wait a minute, why did that happen to me? Why did I draw that to me? Oh, this person cheated. Oh, right, because I felt like whenever the things got tough in my family, my mom just bailed. Oh, and now if I go back and heal that, I don't have to have 3 more relationships where somebody cheats on me. Are you starting to see the bigger picture here? You want to change what you're creating from inside by changing the dynamics inside of you. And those don't change necessarily by leaving a relationship. Leaving a relationship can be part of changing your vibration. So I don't want to say that it's always just about staying and grinding through. You have to listen to your own deep inner wisdom about whether it's time to stay. But there's a big difference between listening to your deep inner wisdom about, oh, it's time to go, than leaving out of a reaction, out of a resentment. That's a very different thing. Ideally, you want to leave with clarity where you say, oh, this person's here and this is what they want. And that doesn't fit with where I'm going. And so I'm going to go. And so it's not, F you, I'm out of here. It's, oh, I see the situation with love. I'd let them go with love. That's kind of the ideal, right? So anyway, I hope some of this was helpful. Again, all of this applies to all your relationships. That closeness, that intimacy that we crave, we have blocks and barriers to it. And so these are some of the tools to break through those blocks and to help that part of you that feels so unsafe, that, believe it or not, wants to stay locked in that separation because that's what it knows. So anyway, again, like I said, I hope some of these ideas help you and that you can apply them. And please always, every Thursday we're here doing the YouTube live stream. So come and bring your questions about anything and everything. And I'll see you next week. Cheers.